Good evening, folks. Welcome to the garage. It's cold and snowy outside, but I've got the kerosene heater going. And we're going to start today's project, but we won't finish it today. It's going to take quite a while to get it done. But the other day I was talking and my daughter came over and she had some pictures she had printed that she wanted to show us. And she gave me a few small pictures to put on the garage wall over here, the grandkids and the family and things. And so I've got those put up. But then she pulls out this larger picture, and it's a picture of my grandson's favorite cow. Yes, the boy likes cows, and he's probably about the best grandson that anybody could ever have in the whole world. So when he wants something, I try to really go out of my way to do it. And she says, you know, here's a nice picture of a cow. He wants to put it up on his bedroom wall, and he needs a picture frame for it. Well, I knew what she had in mind. If you remember some of the videos that I've done, the one I made the dining room or the kitchen table for them out of the barn wood that came from their farm that was over 100 years old. So I had some scraps, and I'm sure that he wants a picture frame made out of those scraps. Now, I've made about, I don't know, 742 picture frames in my life, maybe 743. But they all have one thing in common. I never remember really enjoying making any of them. But I thought I was retired from making picture frames. But when your grandson is as special as mine and he needs a picture frame, then we're going to make him one. I thought I might just go ahead and film it, make a video of the construction of the picture frame. I checked with my daughter today, and come to find out, she doesn't just need one picture frame. She needs an 8x10, a 5x7, and a 4x6 frame to make what she called a collage on the wall. So I went through my wood pile. I found all these old scrap boards that came from the barn. This one, I've got a whole stack of them here. And I'm going to set the table saw up, and the first thing we're going to do is rip out the sizes of the frame. I think probably, I don't like 1 3/4 inches, that's a little too big. 1.5 inches is a little too small, so somewhere in between that. Whatever the saw will line up at, we'll go ahead and do it that way. So here we are at the table saw, and we'll set this thing up. Yeah, about 1 5/8 inches. So we're going to cut some pieces. We need there we go. The next thing we're going to do is cut a groove along the edge of this so that our picture can sit in the back of it. That's called a rabbet joint. I've set the saw over here. I'm going to put the finished side against the fence and make one cut this way. Then when I get done, I'm going to reset a blade up and again and put it down this way, make a cut, and cut this little section out so that I'll make the rabbet for the frame to fit in. I could do this over on the router, but the router's way back in that corner of the junk, and it's cold in here, and if it was summertime, I'd open the door and move some of this stuff out of the way and get that router out there and do that. But these are all pieces right here are all going to be cut in something like this manner here. Now I changed the setup so that I lay the board down there flat, run it across, and I make a cut, and I wind up with this groove in there that makes the picture frame so that the glass will fit in there and the picture will fit in there like that. Now when you're doing this type of cutting, you want to make sure that the little piece that comes out, this is a little hint, make sure that is on the free side of the blade, so it falls out like this. If you have it turned around so that the little piece falls out in here, the blade will pick it up between the fence. You never want a piece to be free between the fence and the blade. If you do, the blade will catch it and it'll throw it right back at you. All right, that's why I used to do it that way just for the fun of it, just to watch them fly. I'd stand over here to the side, but you don't want to see that, and you don't want to have to dodge those. And so we're going to do these, cut these like this. So I've got me a couple of sticks now that I use as a push stick because I don't like to get my fingers that close to the blade. So I'll cut one for you. There we have it. Not too bad. 2 pieces down and 4 more to go. So there you see the pieces cut. I've got them, I don't know, I guess that'll be all right. The next thing I'll be doing is cut up the miters on the ends. If I was gonna do this, set a lot of them up and make a lot of the frames, I would set up the miter saw over here on the workbench, and I'd build me a little fence and I'd put a stop block on it so that I could check each one of them and miter them all off exactly the same. Since I'm making one each of 3 different size frames, I think I'll just measure them and cut them off individually. I'll stack them. I'll miter one end, the length I want. Then I'll measure one and mark it off. And then I'll cut 2 at a time so that I've got 2 side pieces or 2 end pieces exactly the same size. It's not as important that they be the exact size as it is they're exactly the same size. So we'll do that a little bit later. We'll go over there and set up and do that. The next step in our picture frame is to cut our miters. I've got the miter saw set up here on my old work table, so I've got a chair that I can sit on. You know, I mentioned before that I do my best work sitting down. I kind of cheated. I went ahead of you, and I estimated the length of all the picture frames, and I kind of roughed them out, and I cut one end of them already to a miter. Because I was going over the videos last night, and I kind of realized that making a picture frame might get kind of boring after a while if I talked about it long enough. This little saw here, this little miter saw, is a small Ryobi miter saw. I bought it for the pallet bed project because I needed a miter saw. I had a bigger shop before, and I had to downsize, and that other miter saw was too big for me to tote around and move, and I bought this little one, and I really like it so far. It's really handy. It's got a lot of nice features in it. The main feature I really like is this little light right here, and it casts a shadow right where the blade's going to cut. So if you're ready to cut and you see that shadow on your finger, you better move your hand. Now, this is the boards for the 8x10 picture frame. And remember, I talked to you earlier that you cut them both at the same time, and that way they'll both be the same length. So I've already got one end mitered, and I want it to be 10 inches. So I'm going to take my tape measure, and I'm going to measure down here 10 inches. Now I'm measuring to this inside of the groove because I want that to be 10 inches when I'm putting it together. This opening will be a little smaller than 10 inches. So I've got the 8x10 frame here. I take my tape measure. Now, another thing about measuring with your tape measure is that end gets all bent up, and sometimes it will slide for inside measurement and outside measurement. and you never know exactly where to start on that. You never know exactly where the beginning should be. And so I always start like at the 1 inch mark, or in this case at the 2 inch mark, to get my measurement accurate. So I want this frame right here, piece here, to be 10 inches. I'm gonna make it 10 1/8 just so that the frame and the glass will fit. So here I am on the 2. Here I am holding it on the 2 down at the end. And I want to mark down here 10 inches, that would be 12 1/8. So I'll put me a little mark there. And now when I was talking about cutting them two together, I stack them both up here, and then I scoot them down. I pull the saw down and I watch for this shadow that I was talking about. I get the shadow and lined up where the blade's going to be cutting, just at the right length. I make sure that they're both the same length at the other end. I hold them real tight. And there we have it. What happened? We didn't cut all the way through. And there we've got our 2 pieces cut. Now, the other piece, I'm going to do the same thing, only I want these to be, that was the 10 inch side, this is going to be the 8 inch side. So I measure again with my 2. And then it's going to be 10 1/8. Mark it. So hopefully, I put these together. You see it on the camera? And I'll have my 8 by 10 picture frame. Hey, that might not be too bad. Now I've got to do I've already cut out the 4 by 6 one. And now I've got to cut the 5 by 7 one, but I'm sure that you don't want to watch that. So I'll go ahead with my work. So we're ready to put these together. I'm going to use a staple gun with an air stapler. So the air compressor will probably kick on in a minute and we won't be able to hear a thing when we're talking about this stuff. Always put a little bit of wood glue on there. Don't really care what kind it is, just I use the yellow wood glue. And when you put your glue on, don't put it on too heavy so that it'll squeeze out and get all over the front of the frame. Kind of spread it out so that it put it heavy toward the back side here. Spread it on there. I've got a vice grip clamp here. I'll just clamp this down to the table to hold it so it won't get away from me. And don't want to put 2 10-inch pieces together. And we'll see what happens here. Well, if it fits that good when we get all the way around the edge of it, we'll be in good shape. Always told me when I was learning about woodworking and stuff that the nails and the screws just hold the piece until the glue dries. It's the glue that makes the joint strong. Sorry about that noise. The other shop was a little better than this. The air compressor set outside in the other building. and I had it piped in. That way you didn't have to listen to it run all the time. I bought that air nailer at Harbor Freight. It was about 25 bucks. When I bought it for the pallet bed project, and I shot 5,000 staples through that thing and for that pallet bed, putting it together, and it still works just fine. The first air nailer I bought was a Bostik. It was a little bit under $200 for the price of that thing, and it was never worth a dime. I never did get to use that for much of anything assembly. But this little Harbor Freight one seems to work pretty well. It's gonna make me look good now. That thing fits pretty doggone good. Really good. So the 8x10 picture frame, there it is. It's ready to be sanded a little bit, varnished it, and I probably won't cover any sanding or varnishing. And then of course we're going to brand the little truck brand logo on the bottom of it. I've got two more to put together here, but I'm not going to bore you with all that. Looking pretty good. I think they'll turn out all right. I think it'll look good with a cow in it. So here's the pictures of the frames with the varnish on them. Those corners fit pretty good, I think. We'll show you how to put the picture in them in a little bit. Here's a close-up picture of the little truck brand that I put on the woodworking projects that I do. And here's what the picture framing tool that I was talking about with the glazing points. Well, let's finish up these picture frames. I sanded them a little bit with the Random Orbital sander, and then I put 2 coats of varnish on them. Well, it's so cold out here in the garage that the varnish, I'm not real proud of it, but hey, it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. The quality of that miter joint right there on the corners makes up for the sorry varnish on the front of them. So now how do we fasten the picture into them? Well, I've got a tool here that I bought years ago when I was making picture frames a lot. It's a picture framing tool, and it just squeezes together. And what you put in the back of them is called a glazing point. Used to, when they had wooden windows and you hold the glass in there with putty called glazing. Well, to hold the glass in while the putty was drying, while you put the putty in there, you had these little triangular shaped pieces of metal. I'll take a picture of them and put it in the video. But the little triangular pieces of metal are called glazing points. So what you do, I have this frame here. I cut a little piece of plywood to go in the back of it, and I branded my truck brand on it so that everybody would know that it came from me, came with love. And you put this piece of plywood in there. Now I know it fits, I had it in there. Or did I? Well, it looks like I didn't. Well, forget that part. So I've got this frame that I made. I put it down there. Piece of plywood that goes in it, but first we put a piece of glass in it. Put the plywood in it. I'll let them put the picture in it when they get it home. You take the framing tool and you adjust it so that it's the thickness of your frame, just a little bit bigger. Take your window glazing point, put the point down, and you press it in with the squeeze of these pliers. Like that. Depending on how big of a picture you've got, you just put enough in to hold it. I'm just going to put a couple in here because I'll have to take it out to put the picture in it. Squeeze it. And there you got it, your picture frame finished. Ready for a cow picture. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it was fun to watch. I thank God for giving me the resources, the time to make something for somebody I dearly love, which is my grandson Jake. Now, some of you may not have grandsons to work for or grandkids. Those of you that do know how great they are. But you can do something, and you can do God's work anyway in this world. Just find somebody. There's people all over the place that are sitting around cooped in and lonely. They might be sick. They might just be cooped in and not able to go places. They might be young children that don't have, their parents are too busy making a living that they don't have time to have somebody to talk to. Your time you spend, and you don't have to always have something important to tell them. Sometimes it's important just to listen. But to spending the time with that person, and then after you spend a little bit of time, or while you spend a little bit of time, be sure to share the Word of God with them. And you say, well, I'm not good at that. If you ask Him, when the time is right, He will give you the words to say. Sometimes He puts words in my mouth and I say them to people that I have no idea why I said that. But if you just listen to God, He'll give you what to say. Put your faith in Him. And again, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the picture frame video. I may do another one if you encourage me. Thank you. Bye-bye.